For TraderInsight.com, I'm Adrian Manns. I am live today from our Pied de Terre in Miami Beach, Florida. Couldn't be happier. We're back here. You guys who have been here, you recognize my little office down here. This is the place with the views, so this is my happy place to trade. Unfortunately, this morning I did oversleep a little bit, but that's Miami, right? So before we get started, remember I will be in Chicago, Illinois at the Traders Expo. I hope that if you're going to be anywhere in the vicinity, you'll take the time and come down and see me. Always love to see you guys. So right now what I'd like to do is take a dive into this morning's trades and talk about what a great way we kicked off this holiday week. All right, as you can tell by the looks of me, right after the first hour trading pit this morning, down to the water. So Connor and Julie and I went down and spent a couple hours swimming in the very warm waters off Miami Beach. That's a luxury we don't have at home. California coast. That's an 8mm wetsuit on its best day. So we had a good time. We also had some good trades this morning. Now the market gapped up just way out of the range on all this China news. Looks like there might be a deal coming. Then it looks like there might not be a deal coming. All this stuff is just to keep it in the news. But eventually there's going to be a deal. There's no doubt about that. It just might not be this week. It might not be this month. But I think that something good is coming, and in the interim the market gets very excited about it every time it looks like we've made some progress. So what did that do for our trades this morning? Big gaps to the upside on all those XRV setups. So the very first thing I did after getting into the room a little bit later than I should have, right? We got here with a couple minutes to spare, but it was enough time to defer the orders. So the very first thing I said to you guys in the morning was let's defer the XRV orders. That's because you don't want to be caught in a gap to the upside that then winds up reversing, triggers you in, and then winds up down here somewhere. What you want to do is wait for the setup to form just like it did today. It came back into the range, gave us an entry opportunity after this double header reversal right there. 1, 2, 3, 4 stops at the profit target. Plenty of time to get out of this thing right at the target for the trade. 90.88 on the entry, 91.67 on the exit. Then we had NSTG. And this one was another setup that was pretty interesting. You'll recall we did not take the 30.60 entry. That was because of the opening gap. We let it track back down in again, came down to the pivot line, and this was less than clean as far as a typical pivot entry goes. This area right here, what I was looking at, and the reason that I told you guys, let's take a look at a pivot reversal entry here, was the fact that price was making this sort of wedge move up and then consolidated right on top of the pivot. That told me that's a good entry opportunity. We called it live in the room. We had an exit on that one up around $30.30 some odd cents. Let's take a look at exactly where that was. We were using the support and resistance, the prior support and resistance from the intraday chart going into the closing of yesterday's trading range. I believe 30.27 was the level that we used in the room. And then had it gone up and hit 30.60 any later in the morning, we would have taken that one as well. PTCT, this one opened in line, dove down to that pivot line. I didn't get an entry there. First 5 minutes of the trading session, as I said in the room, I didn't want to fool with because I wanted to see how the market settled in. Obviously, this came back up, gave us an entry right there again after a nice consolidation. Popped up, traded almost all the way up into that target range, but looks like it's going to wind up being a scratch stop going into the latter part of today unless we get a move up again. 46.04 was the target on this one, and the highest that we managed to go, 45.89. So maybe no cigar on that one, but we'll keep an eye on it going into the close. Then STNG. This one gapped, never came back down again, didn't give us an opportunity for an entry. SSYS, no trigger on the open, came up and unfortunately triggered us in. $29.44, just poked up above there, came right back down again. Like I told you in the room, 29.14, pretty safe place to stop out of this because it later went and made the same move lower that we were expecting from the open. So anytime you see this kind of a thing happen on the violation of a prior support area, that's telling you, look, if it breaks down through here again, most likely thing that's going to happen is a move down into there. So that's why I told you to take that one off a little bit earlier than you would normally take off one of these fastball XRV setups. And then finally we had TDOC, and again, no cigar on this one because the stock gapped and it never really made it back down into the range. I know that a couple of you took it on the violation of this low right here. So technically that would be within allowable slippage. I'm not going to book it that way. I'm just booking it as a no-show because I wasn't taking that, and it really just barely made it back down into the opening range. And really, your order should have been deferred until you had to move back down 8 cents into your allowable slippage before taking another entry. And Apple, let's take a look at what happened with our favorite scalp trade. First bar of the session, I said, let's sit it out. Let's wait those first 5 minutes. As it turned out, it wasn't a bad trade in the opening bar because it did make the move lower first. No chance of getting triggered in on the long side on that one. And then once the first bar made the move up above our band at 203.58, it just retraced back in here a little bit, popped up to the upside. 204.14 on the first trade was an easy place to go. Now, we did have to ratchet stops up in behind it, and I keep telling you to use mental stops in the morning. If that's confusing, you just shoot for the bands. Go set them up exactly the way that they are. If you don't want the discretion, if your hands on the keyboard tend to be your enemy, then just go ahead and set the trade up and let it mature and let it trade out the way that it's going to go. Then we had a nice move back down into the range. Had the opportunity to catch Apple on a bounce. That bounce was super clean, got us up $203.11. The next move was up to 203.58. Missed the extension, didn't get up in there, so that one wound up trailing us out at that 203.58 level. And then, as you recall, we had a couple opportunities on this one as it came down into the range. 202.73 was the bounce that we were looking for based on what happened back here earlier in the session, earlier in the pre-market. And then there should be another line here down below where we took the inflection trade. Let me just pull that up for you. Right, so this line, this 202.41, became the extension target on the short side trade this morning. Beautiful short. And then once we got down into 202.41, the move back up into 203.11 gave us another opportunity to short back down into that 202.41. So Apple this morning, textbook for a gap day. It's the kind of thing that you want to see, a move in the direction of the gap initially, and then a fade back down into the range. And think about what we were watching. We were looking at the futures. You can look at the spiders, diamonds, Qs. You can look at the ES. You can look at anything that's giving you the true futures trading that's going on, and watch what's happening in the major indices. So in the case of Apple, it tends to lead the index early and follow the index late. Today, this one was definitely performing true to form, and I think everything on this was beautiful this morning. Let's take a look now at our opening gaps, and then we'll be done for the day. So this morning, there were too many gaps to focus on everything. I went straight for stocks I like. The first one I looked at was Qualcomm, QCOM. You can see that on the first bar of the trading day, what I did, since this was obviously going to be a trapdoor setup, I took the range of this first bar, drew a Fibonacci price expansion, and then of course we were targeting $78.54. So $79.29 was a trapdoor, $78.54 was the exit on the trade. Everything went exactly the way that you would want it to go on one of these. So beautiful trade on QCOM. Next one on the list, QRVO. This one I said in the room was performing in the spirit of a trapdoor. Somebody sent me a quick message saying, what the heck do you mean in the spirit of a trapdoor? I'm just talking about the fact that that second bar there, just barely got down under the low of the first bar, and actually the third bar was the one that generated the entry. That acted the same way as the classic trapdoor does. I just waited for this low to form, and then $71.68, the fib expansion down to $71.05 on the extension. So we were really looking for 71.17. It got down to 71.05, no problem. You know that in the room we were talking about an extension and got it all the way down to 70 bucks. But again, if you put your orders in and you let this thing take you out where you plan to get out, don't sweat it. That's the right way to trade. Get everything down mechanically before you start trying to add any kind of discretionary component to this whatsoever. Final gap that I looked at in the morning was Lumentum. This is ticker symbol LITE. So we had a second bar entry on this classic trapdoor down through $56.14. Target on this one, $55.10, made it down there, no problem. This was a beautiful trade. And then the other one that we were looking at, right, was Cypress Semiconductor, but I missed that. So all things considered, great first day of trading here in beautiful Miami Beach. If any of you are down here, if any of you are around, let me know. Love to get together with you. In the interim, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, adrian@traderinsight.com. I hope you had a great trading day today and an even better one on deck for Tuesday. It's the best trader education anywhere, only from traderinsight.com.